We are living in the noisiest era in human history. From the relentless pings of phone notifications to the street clamor that follows us even into our bedrooms. It has reached a point where the World Health Organization has described this noise as a modern plague. We have grown so accustomed to consuming content and noise around the clock that silence can sometimes feel uncomfortable. But what if I told you that silence is not merely the absence of sound? Science is beginning to discover that silence is a highly active biological event, a master architect that can literally rewire your brain. Today, we will dive deep into the realms of neurophenomenology to uncover what happens to your mind when the world stops talking, and how a few hours or days of profound silence can fundamentally alter your body's chemistry. Let's begin with a mind-blowing discovery that has reshaped the field of neuroscience. In 2013, researchers at Duke University conducted a study to monitor the impact of various sounds on the brain. They discovered something entirely unexpected. When the test subjects were exposed to 2 hours of total silence per day, the brain began producing new neurons in the hippocampus. Why is this discovery so revolutionary? Because the hippocampus is the command center for memory, learning, and emotional regulation. We once believed that the growth of new brain cells in adults was nearly impossible. However, this study proved that silence triggers what is known as neurogenesis. More importantly, researchers found that these cells weren't just numbers. They developed into active, functional neurons. It's as if, in a state of silence, the brain enters a positive state of alert, priming itself for new cognitive challenges. You might think you need to retreat to remote, isolated places, but science tells us that microdoses of silence work like magic. Researchers from the University of Pavia in Italy discovered that just 2 minutes of total silence have a more powerful calming effect on the body and the circulatory system than listening to relaxing music. The study observed an immediate drop in blood pressure and improved blood flow to the brain. But have you ever wondered, do we actually hear silence? In 2023, Johns Hopkins University provided an astonishing answer through a study using auditory illusions. The study proved that the brain processes silence as an event rather than a void. We literally hear silence the same way we hear sounds. This active interaction is what allows the nervous system to initiate a comprehensive reset the moment external noise is cut off. What if we went even further and decided to undergo a therapeutic silence experience for 3 full days? Science has mapped out this internal journey for us. On the first day, levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, begin to drop significantly, signaling the body to shift from fight or flight mode into repair mode. On the second day, what is known as a dopamine detox begins. A German study found that the brain's reward centers, which have grown accustomed to the constant stimulation of social media, start to settle down and become less reactive to addictive triggers. By the third day, a structural shift occurs. Brain activity transitions into alpha and theta waves. These waves are linked to deep creativity and psychological stability. Research suggests that 3 days of silence are enough to make your brain operate at higher efficiency, significantly increasing your ability to observe and process your emotions with stunning clarity. Is it a coincidence that history's greatest minds like Einstein, Newton, and Nikola Tesla revered solitude and silence? Science explains this through the activity of the brain's default mode network. When we stop receiving external information, our brain doesn't just rest as we might think. Instead, it engages in a process of thinking for pleasure. In this state, the brain begins connecting distant pieces of information and evaluating past experiences, generating those famous eureka moments. According to researchers at Washington University, silence provides the brain with enough space to sift through creative ideas that are usually drowned out by daily noise. Therefore, silence is not an absence of thought. It is the laboratory where genius is crafted. However, there is a necessary warning. Not all silence is beneficial. There is a fundamental difference between the silence you choose and the silence that is imposed on you. In the 1950s, McGill University conducted a famous experiment on forced sensory deprivation. The results were shocking. After only a few days, volunteers began suffering from visual and auditory hallucinations, and a total loss of the ability to perform simple thinking. Why? Because when the brain is forcibly deprived of sound in an unsafe environment, it perceives this as social pain and a threat to survival. It then begins inventing its own sounds just to survive. Conversely, the silence we choose voluntarily makes the brain feel safe, activating the vagus nerve and initiating the repair processes. The secret always lies in intent and purpose. In summary, silence is not a luxury. It is a vital periodic maintenance for your brain. Science tells us that accumulating 2 hours of quiet each day, even in intervals, is enough to permanently enhance your memory and reduce stress. You can start with what is known as silent walking. Walk for 20 minutes in nature without headphones or a phone, and you will notice the brain fog begin to lift. Always remember the advice from mental health experts at the University of California. Breathing deeply with a long exhale in silence sends an immediate signal of safety to your brain to begin rebuilding itself. In a world that never stops making noise, silence is the most powerful rebellion and the smartest investment in your health. Thank you for watching, and enjoy your stillness today.